afternoon. Last time we took a long look at Miraculous's issues with continuity, its status quo, and how its episodic nature is detrimental to the story it's trying to tell. Let's dive straight back into it with the biggest failure of development and build-up, with the worst payoff, Chloe Bourgeois. Part 3. Chloe's arc, failed redemption or successful damnation. One of the most hated characters in Miraculous is Mademoiselle Chloe Bourgeois, or at least she was. And with good reason. Chloe is cruel, spoilt, and narcissistic. Her father is the mayor of Paris, and she exploits his power and money to control her school and, by extension, her classmates. She has been Marionette's bully for the last 4 years, and seems to spend most of her time making fun of other characters, often resulting in their akumatization, and trying to possess Adrien, who is her childhood friend.
Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Then, with season 2, we started getting hints that maybe Chloe wasn't all bad, that maybe she was capable of changing for the better. An uplifting message about the adaptability of people and how even the worst of us deserve a second chance. Psych! The end of season 3 saw all of that build-up and development hurled out of the window as the redemption arc came to a grinding halt. When asked about this by fans, Thomas Ostruck claimed it was actually a damnation arc and that people were only upset because they couldn't predict it. But is that really the reason? Let's take a look at what the series shows us. As I said earlier, she began as a terrible person in series 1, but in season 2 we had glimpses of hope for her. We had episodes like Despair Bear, where she tries to be a better person, Zombie Zoo, where she apologises for being terrible, and the Queen's Battle trilogy, which dives into her personal life, her narcissistic mum and her pushover dad, and sees her admit that she has no friends and is sad that no one likes her. She's not perfect, no, but there's a willingness to change. And while she makes mistakes when she becomes the superior Queen Bee, we were optimistic that it would overall be helpful for her changing for the better. Which is why fans were confused when season 3 undid all of this. It was a little muddled throughout, with some episodes treating her as evil incarnate. Stormy Weather 2 comes to mind as she causes the character to be reakumatized by claiming once a villain, always a villain, so goodbye character development. But then she seems alright in Star Train, still selfish and spoilt, but she does help her classmates by trapping an Akuma, the butterfly, in a train carriage. Perhaps a hint that her becoming a better hero is helping her become a better person too. Then in Miraculous, she actually manages to fight off an Akuma, the first time a character has ever been able to do this in the show. An amazing moment which cemented in many people's minds the idea of her redemption arc. Hello, it's me, from the future. Again, I've just watched episode 3 of season 4, Gang of Secrets, and you remember I was just saying that Chloe fought off an Akuma and got no recognition for it at all. Well, I didn't say that bit, but she got no recognition for it at all. A character in episode 3 didn't just fight off an Akuma, she de-transformed from her akumatized state without the object being broken. She just fought Hawkmoth off. Which has never been done before, and she got tons of recognition for it, but Chloe was halfway there already and got told nothing, so I feel like that might just be the creators being like, hey, this thing that Chloe did that, was really cool. We don't want you to like Chloe, so make another character do it and, make it out as a really great thing, but, screw Chloe doing it, I guess. So, yeah, I guess they still hate her. But then we get to the season 3 finale, Heart Hunter and Miracle Queen, and boy is it a kick in the teeth. In Heart Hunter, her parents are akumatized again, which was honestly just background, as most of the episode was relationship drama. This was really a setup for Miracle Queen, where Chloe is akumatized again and messes up everything. She gets reakumatized because Ladybug hadn't come by to let her be Queen Bee again, despite Ladybug having mentioned previously that she couldn't because her identity was known by all of Paris. So Hawkmoth turns up with the Miracle Box, which is the stash of other Miraculous jewellery not in permanent use, gives her the Miraculous of the Bee and persuades her to become evil in, 2 lines. It's honestly pathetic how quickly she turns on Ladybug, who she spent most of 3 seasons idolising. She reveals the identity of most of the temporary heroes, which should mean they can't be called on again. Unfortunate, as I would have liked to have seen them more than, twice. Especially my boy Viperion. His power is by far the most interesting, with the most potential for drama and whatever, although there are season 4 trailers of Rena Rouge coming back, so maybe all hope's not lost. When Miracle Queen is defeated, Chloe makes a measly attempt to be reakumatized again by making a grab for the Akuma, which is just
pathetic.
She then renounces Ladybug completely, claiming she doesn't love her anymore. Now I know what you're thinking. What if this is part of the plan? What if the redemption arc is longer than this, and this is just her lowest point? Like when Zuko betrayed Iroh at the end of season 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Well, I would believe that if this was written better, but the betrayal is so blasé. She betrays Ladybug so quickly and so easily with barely any build-up. There's no tragedy to it, and not much of a deep emotional reaction from either her or Ladybug. And that's the problem. The build-up was for a redemption, not a betrayal. So even if Thomas Strook pulls an Uno reverse card and says, "Ha! Her redemption was planned from the next season," he has still failed with this particular step of the journey. It has no impact on anyone. Compare that to Zuko in Avatar. Everyone was devastated at his decision to help his evil sister over the good guys, betraying his uncle in the process. The characters were horrified, the audience was horrified, and Zuko was horrified. They didn't skimp on the emotion, but it was all built up. For the entire season, Zuko had been conflicted about what he wanted and who he wanted to be, the way Chloe should have been. Yes, the build-up was there for a simple redemption. Look at Pacifica Northwest from Gravity Falls. She was terrible, but after an episode wherein we found out how messed up her family is, and she was able to make a connection with one of the main characters, she began getting better. Still spoiled and selfish and vain, but not vindictive and evil. That's what it felt like Chloe was trying to be. We saw her messed up family and understood her. We saw her admitting that she had no friends and came to the conclusion she was miserable because of it. And with her belief in Ladybug, she was able to fight off an Akuma. She should have been a straight Pacifica Northwest redemption, not changing completely, but certainly making headway to be less evil. If they wanted to do a Zuko, we needed the struggle, we needed to see the conflict, and the betrayal should have been alluded to. Personally, I would have had Chloe focus on trying to be good to show off to Ladybug that she should be a hero again, misconstruing being good for being Queen Bee. And when Ladybug finally snapped that she'll never be Queen Bee again, the descent begins. When Hawkmoth comes to her, he needs to work harder to persuade her, using her feelings of betrayal against her, and have her upset instead of angry. And when Ladybug realises what she's done, she is saddened. That way the betrayal is more devastating and also feels more earned. And having those stronger emotions drawn out for longer and made a bigger deal of gives the show a good springboard for the next stage of her redemption, where she takes a good long look at herself and decides to change for unselfish reasons. Assuming, of course, Strook is planning to make use of what build-up and backstory they gave her. Look at this tweet. And this one. And this one. And, okay, that one's kind of funny. But on this one, I'm still waiting to see those surveys. This is the end of her damnation arc, and she'll never get any better because she's basically Trump, mixed together with Satan and Hitler, and finished off with a dash of questionable makeup. And this is a real shame. Not only would this have been a brilliant lesson about how people can change for the better, and how everyone is capable and has worth as a person, but it's also really inspiring for people who were Chloe and now regret it, who are looking for a way to make up for their actions and seek forgiveness from those they've wronged. After all, they're out there too, and they need a hug. And love is the most important superpower in the world.
Aww.
Yeah. Aww. Anyway. Part 4. Marinette versus Adrian, or if you like Cat Noir, you're sexist. Here's a fun fact for you. Tom Dupin, Marinette's father, is based off of Thomas Strook himself. Second fun fact. Sabine Cheng, Marinette's mother, is based off of an old girlfriend of his. Before we dwell on how slightly creepy that is, let's move on to the conclusion drawn from these two statements. Marinette is Thomas Strook's daughter. Just a fun thing to have in mind during this section, although Google does seem to think otherwise for some reason. We're looking at our two main characters, Marinette and Adrian. Marinette is fine as a character for the most part. She's quite nice, I suppose, and I like that her hobby is designing and making clothes and accessories. It fits well with her being Ladybug, as both require creativity and also an analytical mind, intelligence and organisation. It's just a shame it doesn't get brought up more, because all of her plot lines revolve around her crush on Adrian. This is problematic for a few reasons. Firstly, it's boring. I'm getting really sick of so many episodes being focused on her crush, because instead of cool, creative, funny Marinette, we get her stuttering, making a fool of herself, and freaking out. Secondly, for a show that prides itself on giving young girls a good, strong female lead, it's concerning so much of her character is anchored in a guy. Like, she isn't even allowed to be her own person unless she's wearing a spotted suit. And even then, one could argue there's a lot of focus on her relationship with Cat Noir. another guy. Surely a better role model would be one with more independence, who is confident in herself and shows young girls they don't need to focus on getting a boy because they are already complete on their own. Thirdly, she isn't actually that interesting. Aside from Adrian, there's not much going on in her life that causes much conflict. Her parents are perfectly nice, great actually, and she gets good grades, she's got lots of friends, she's talented, she enjoys her hobbies. There's just not much there to focus on apart from Adrian, apparently, which is a real shame because we could, therefore, be focusing on world-building stuff, like the Miraculous, like her training with Master Fu, information about the history of the Miraculous, the other Kwamis and their powers, and what all the power-up potions do, which might be some nice foreshadowing to situations they'll face in the future. But no, we get her drooling over Adrian, gushing over Adrian, failing to confess to Adrian, and moping about not having Adrian. Speaking of Adrian, he doesn't get anywhere near as much screen time, which is curious considering he's a far more interesting character. For starters, his home life is insane. His mother is newly dead, with the first anniversary of her possible passing only cropping up near the end of the 3rd season. So for most of the show, he's actually been in mourning, adjusting to life without his mother, whom he deeply loved and deeply misses. His father is insanely controlling, keeping Adrian to a strict timetable, locking him up in a gilded prison, forcing him to take piano, fencing and Chinese lessons, denying him a birthday party, getting his secretary to organise his birthday presents, never allowing him to have friends over, having a bodyguard go with him everywhere, and even taking him out of school once, which Adrian had to beg to go to in the first place. This is a lot more interesting. Yes, he's in love with Ladybug, but he doesn't spend that much time moping about it as Adrian. His fear is also quite interesting. In Sandboy, characters' fears are made physical, I suppose. And Adrian's fear is being trapped. For some reason, his fear as Cat Noir is different. Adrian, having been homeschooled his whole life, has never had friends outside of Chloe before. So even just seeing how he tackles real friends would be far more interesting to watch. And then there's his relationship with Cat Noir. He does become like a different person. Carefree, humorous and cheeky, a far shout from the mild-mannered, awkward ray of sunshine he is as Adrian. But even as Cat Noir, he has more baggage than Ladybug. Despite her being the leader, he suffers being in her shadow, never being given the same information, never being allowed to choose temporary heroes. He doesn't even know the Guardian, the keeper of the Miraculous, until halfway through season 2 in Siren. He has the powers of destruction weighing on his shoulders. Any of these would make for a far more interesting character to follow, but we don't. Why? Because Marinette's the main character, so she's all we should ever focus on. And Adrian's just perfect, guys. No need to explore his emotional trauma or mental baggage. No, he's just perfect. It's the law. I will admit, these tweets could be a joke, but if they are a joke, then they're not very good. If they're sincere, then having your female lead's flaw being bad control over emotions is a terrible look for a feminist show. There's also this odd tension between Ladybug and Cat Noir. When the idea of partnership comes up, the show wants us to believe that they are equal partners, both important to taking down villains, and how Ladybug couldn't do anything without her precious Cat Noir. But we're not shown that. Ladybug is the one who gets all of the attention, who is praised throughout Paris. She's the one who comes to save the day, comes up with the plan, and gets the credit, whereas Cat Noir usually is incapacitated by the villain, barely gets mentioned by the media, and the only attention he does get is being used in memes. Sure, he saves Ladybug a few times, but that seems to be his main use. In the episode Reflector, Ladybug and Cat Noir exchange Kwamis and therefore powers, and the effect is startling. Ladybug, or Lady Noir, is brilliant with her new powers. She becomes fun-loving, carefree and cheeky, which just adds more weight to the idea of them being different as heroes. Perhaps some are connected or bound to the Kwamis who share similar traits. And Cat Noir, or Mr. Bug, which is a stupid name, becomes sulky, is made fun of and isn't very good. For an episode that's meant to be the one where they realise what it's like to be in each other's shoes and learn to appreciate their partner's job, we don't get a sense of that. Instead, we're just told that Ladybug's great and Cat Noir will never be anything but comic relief. Cat rarely gets a chance to shine, which just makes him even more of a fan favourite. A sad pretty boy who's also the underdog? Of course everyone loves him. This skewed balance was represented pretty well by the promotional posters for the Miraculous World series, specifically the New York and the Shanghai ones, because they featured just Ladybug, no Cat Noir. And when fans mention their woes to Stroke, however, he blamed it on sexism. Yeah, apparently asking that Cat Noir get a little love and attention is Twitter speak for Ladybug shouldn't be the leader because she's a girl. And as much as fans tried to convince him it was because of Cat getting the short end of the baton, he refused to listen. This is particularly frustrating when we look at the episode Cat Blanc. Spoiler time! At the beginning of season 2, we find out who Hawkmoth is. It's actually kind of obvious, but there we go. I didn't see it somehow, despite accidentally reading a spoiler about it because I'm thick. Basically, Hawkmoth is revealed to be none other than Gabriel Agreste, Adrian's father. When he worries suspicion may fall on him, he akumatizes himself to throw off the scent, so no one knows except the audience and his secretary Natalie, who also doubles as Mayura at the end of season 2 and during season 3. In Cat Blanc, which is pure fan service by the way, we see all the possibilities with his character. In Cat Blanc, Marinette makes a mistake which leads to Adrian working out she's Ladybug. He, of course, starts dating Marinette, but she is forced to break up with him when his father doesn't approve for whatever reason. He reveals himself as Cat Noir when she is nearly akumatized. Natalie sees and totally snitches on him to Gabriel/Hawkmoth. Ladybug and Cat Noir, now knowing who each other is, manage to track down Hawkmoth, but he shocks them by revealing that Adrian's mother is... well, she's not decaying, so presumably she's actually alive but in a coma. But he did decide to keep her in a glass coffin like Snow White, so it's a bit ambiguous. He uses Adrian's emotional state to akumatize him into Cat Blanc, who then accidentally breaks the moon and murders everyone in Paris. Why is this episode in particular such a kick in the teeth? Because we realise how much potential Adrian had as a main character. His arc, his situation, is where all of the drama and plot is. He as a character is just so much more engaging, with tons of possibility for angst and drama with regards to both his emotional arc, with his mum being...
mostly dead.
...his overbearing father, and the superhero plotline, with his father being Hawkmoth, and his goal being to use the wish to bring the mother back to life, which would incur a cost of equal value, which means someone will probably have to die. What's more, we know that Marinette will never be akumatized, because Thomas Ostruck has already decided what would happen and refuses to entertain other ideas, because ideas aren't stories, which is like saying an egg isn't an omelette. Not yet, but it wouldn't be hard to rectify. Although he may well change his mind on this in the future, because he isn't great at consistency. I mean, he's making us think one thing to surprise us with the exact opposite later, so he can pat himself on the back for subverting our expectations of something. I mean, the show's already confirmed that her Akumane would be Princess Justice, so... So what drama is there for Marinette? What angst? What development? What growth? There's nothing. Literally the only interesting thing about her is her conflicting romantic feelings for Adrian and Luca, and that came to a grinding halt with the first episode of season 4. What will happen when they find out who Hawkmoth is? She'll be shocked. Yeah, for Adrian, so why aren't we focusing on him? Also, side note, can we stop with the marriage is a trap jokes? They're really old. Although, if that's what he thinks marriage is like, maybe that's why the romance is so... not good. Part 5. Romance. 2 toxic people do not a good relationship make. That made sense. Alright, strap in. This is the fun one. This is also the issue that prompted me to make this video in the first place. Now you may be thinking, the romance? Really? How bad can the romance in a kids show be? And it's a kids show about superheroes, who cares? A valid opinion. My response, I care because it is a kids program. I care because we should be teaching children healthy romantic behaviours, not this mess. And also, this program is a superhero romp, yes, and the superhero stuff is, for the most part, fine. Not groundbreaking, but fun. However, this show is also a romance. Therefore, you'd think they would have put a bit more effort into the romance department. The way I see it, the audience is made of people who either know this isn't how romance works, and is therefore unimpressed, or people who don't know and are therefore susceptible to internalising those behaviours. Firstly, Marinette's behaviour towards Adrian is toxic. As we've already touched on, she stalked him. She has his timetable memorised. She stole his phone to delete a voice message. She tried to break into his room because he was studying with Lila. She crashed a party he threw to which she was not invited. She gets upset whenever anyone else talks to him, especially Lila or Chloe. She has all of his presents for the next 35 birthdays already made and wrapped up. I don't think I need to explain why this, as a reaction to a teenage crush, is not a good message to any young girls. She's obsessive to the point that A, her identity as Marinette has become just in love with Adrien, which sucks for a female role model, and B, she isn't even comfortable around him. She can't talk to him, freaks out whenever they're next to each other. If she can't even string a sentence together in front of him, a relationship with him might actually kill her. I know we see in Cat Blanc that doesn't happen, but anyone else noted that she miraculously stops stammering and stuttering all the time? That's not how it works. How, therefore, am I meant to root for a relationship wherein one person is worshipped and the other is chronically uncomfortable and anxious? And for all the show talks about how much they're good friends, we never see them being that friendly and comfortable because the writer's favourite joke is Marinette is a mess, so we don't get to experience what a relationship would actually be like on even a friend level. Secondly, Cat Noir's behaviour towards Ladybug is toxic. He is in love with her, constantly flirts with her, and is always trying for a kiss. Yes, she usually laughs these off, but this isn't actually that great an indicator of her comfort. After all, she always pushes him away, sometimes looking more shocked than amused, and it's actually really common for women to laugh and smile in an uncomfortable situation, often involving men, for fear of the reaction if they don't. I myself have had to put up with people acting creepy towards me by laughing because, as a powerless person with very little physical strength, I didn't want to rock the boat and either get in trouble at work, because this has happened at work, or just get in trouble in general. That may be an over-exaggerated reading of the relationship. After all, it is clear they are friends, trust each other, and are comfortable with each other. But you can't rely on that as proof that Ladybug does like him or is okay with his flirting. And honestly, I don't even think it's that far of a stretch. One can make the case that Ladybug is afraid of Cat Noir's reaction because whenever she does reject him, he whines and mopes and puts the fight in danger. Glaciator and Frozer come to mind. As I've mentioned in the previous video, he also never gets called out for his behaviour. If anything, it's painted as romantic, which is a really bad lesson for kids. What if little girls watching think that they should just say yes to any boy who asks because it's mean to say no and people won't like them? What if little boys watching think that if a girl says no, they just need to keep asking and asking and asking until they say yes? Which, by the way, is still a no. Coercion does not equal consent. Hashtag balance ton porc, by the way. He's also kind of a hypocrite. He knows Ladybug is in love with someone else, but doesn't respect her enough to back off. Instead, he's insistent on making her love him eventually. And yet, when Marinette claims to be in love with him in Where Dad, as a pointless lie to stop him thinking she's Ladybug, which didn't make sense at the time and doesn't make sense now, but he rejects her with the expectation that she'll back off, and yet doesn't see that Ladybug rejected him very explicitly, more than once, with the expectation that he'll back off. Somehow he's decided that his feelings for Ladybug are more important or more real than Ladybug's for this other boy and Marinette's for him. It makes him come across as selfish and spoiled. He's also possessive and childish, as seen in Copycat, where he lies to a character called Theo about him and Ladybug being in a relationship, which leads to Theo being akumatized. Also, Theo's age is dubious, which makes his entire episode uncomfortable to watch. Like, how old do you think he is? Whatever you said, you're wrong. He's 16 to 18, although an 18-year-old crushing on a 13-year-old is still creepy. Other people might bring up Siren as another facet to his troubling behaviour, when he has a hissy fit over Ladybug not telling him everything about the Guardian and stuff like that, which, to be fair, I do get from his point of view. But that doesn't excuse threatening to give up being Cat Noir and breaking Plag's poor little heart whilst an Akuma is flooding Paris and probably drowning hundreds. Priorities, my friend. Oh, and let's not forget in the recent episode Lies, where he sort of tries to get people akumatized just so he can see Ladybug, despite knowing that, as the new Guardian, she is probably insanely busy. Again, in his eyes, his romantic feelings for her are more important than her life. Thirdly, the romance as a plotline is messy. I've already covered that it's incredibly static, with Marinette not really getting any better around Adrien, despite the show's claims that they're really good friends now. We just don't want to actually have to write real conversation between them, because reasons. Chemistry is more than just a science, my friends. Yes, there are some nice scenes between them, which does give me hope. Gamer is quite sweet, where Marinette gives him a Lucky Charm bracelet, which prompts him to make and gift her one in Befana, which also comes up again in season 4, so you get one continuity point. Well done. In the episode Goryzilla, when they're running away from Adrian's fans so he can watch a film his mum was in, they actually acted like real people. But it's all drips and drabs compared to the deluge of scenes where Marinette is too anxious to speak to him, so it doesn't feel like any progress has actually been made. It's a little better with Cat Noir and Ladybug. Like, they do seem to get a little closer as the series goes on, but it doesn't feel romantic. Actually, all of the romantic scenes between them feel awkward because we know Ladybug doesn't feel that way around him. So it's either Cat initiating something he knows she doesn't want, or Ladybug stringing him on. Then we get to the end of season 3 and the New York special, and it's made pretty clear that Adrien and Kagami are a thing, with a sort of kiss in the season finale and a definite, if chaste, kiss at the beginning of the special, which he smiles at, by the way, so he clearly liked it. Remember that. Marinette is trying to get over Adrien, which would have been interesting if the show allowed her to, but they don't, and neither does Alia. Yet during the special, Adrien, and by extension the writers, seem to forget that he's in a relationship with Kagami, and so he keeps inviting Marinette into forced romantic situations which make no sense and are just pure, thoughtless fan service. Like, I don't care how sheltered he is. Adrien should know that having a slow, moonlit dance in the sky with your just a friend is not appropriate when you have a girlfriend waiting for you in France. Yes, he's homeschooled, but he's also clearly a romantic, and I'm pretty sure Thomas Astruc confirmed Adrien watches anime at one point, so he should know that wasn't appropriate. A betrayal like that would be enough to power at least half a season of most high school animes. So that was just awkward. Also, Thomas confirmed that the special was literally meant to have zero impact, so we can just pretend like it never happened. Great. Season 4 started with promise. Maybe seeing them in other relationships could let them develop individually as characters to prepare them for when they no doubt get together at the end. Except the first 2 episodes, Truth and Lies, which take place at the same time, see Adrien break up with Kagami and Marinette sort of break up with Luca because they couldn't juggle a relationship whilst being superheroes, even though Adrien had clearly been doing alright with Kagami prior to this, so I don't know where that came from. So yeah, 2 episodes in, and goodbye to that romantic side plot. We're back to square one with Marinette having gained zero clarity and zero experience in romance, and Adrien showing he is incapable of being fully committed to one person. Excellent. Also, bonus, telling us that they are meant to be does not make it true. Instead of telling us, how about, I don't know, showing us? But I don't really expect much from the people who had a setup for development gift wrapped for them and then threw it away in 2 episodes. Well done, guys. Well done. Fourthly, the romance is kind of doomed. It's implied that they won't end up together. In Time Tagger, a time-travelling superhero called Bunnix tells Cat Noir, when he asks about his and Ladybug's future relationship, that they are all over the place, which to me clearly means not together, and they would be adults. I don't think the show is going to bring us into their adulthood, as it took 3 seasons to get through 1 year. It could be argued that Bunnix was lying to protect the timeline, but I don't know. She could have just said, can't tell you if that was the case. It's also implied they don't know each other's identities in the future, because Hawkmoth is still running rampant through Paris. A different Hawkmoth, yes, but still. And if they don't know each other's identities, the love square will still be in place, and as we already know from Cat Blanc, Adrien won't want Marinette until he realises she's Ladybug. As much as people like to believe he likes her already, he really doesn't. I'm sorry, he's an idiot and acts romantically towards her because the writers can't write natural chemistry. Heck, Cat Blanc shows us that they can't get together until Hawkmoth is defeated, because Cat Noir will probably end up destroying Paris. This also doesn't bode well for the superhero plotline ending in a satisfying way at the end of season 5, as the Butterfly Miraculous will not be recovered and they'll still be fighting Akumas into adulthood. But oh well. Finally, the rival ships are kind of better. As we've seen previously, the 2 rival characters have received so much development, and this is proved by how well liked they are now compared to how they were introduced. Never mind, this is only because Luca had little character and even less screen time, and Kagami was introduced as a somewhat aggressive rival. I'll mostly talk about Lucanet because I ship it more than Adrugami, which I like, but only really because Marinette ends up with Luca and Adrien is usually palmed off on Kagami. Although in Lies there was that scene in the art room which started cute and then ended terrifying. But we'll forget that happened. We see in Truth that Marinette and Luca actually have a lot of chemistry. They're able to talk as friends and even flirt a bit. Luca's chilled attitude is just what the obsessive and manic Marinette needs to calm down and be anchored. She actually acts like a real person around him, which just makes them look more like a better couple. She and Adrian in Cap Blanc are forced to break up because Gabriel is a little bitch who didn't want his son to be happy. Why Marinette doesn't just tell Adrian so that they can date in secret, I don't know. Like, if you really loved him that deeply, wouldn't you do anything you can to stay together? When she and Luca break up, she doesn't want to, but she has to because she can't date him and fight Akumas whilst keeping her secret identity. It's tragic because it's beyond both their control, and yet there's this note that he'll wait for her, which is A, super romantic, and B, optimistic. Either way, both of these ships should have been used more effectively as a way to help Marinette and Adrian grow out of their unhealthy behaviours. But even then, that doesn't mean they should get together afterwards. I mean, you wouldn't go back to your abuser even if they'd had therapy and gotten better. That similar situation of being in the same relationship again makes it too easy to fall back into bad habits. It would be like trying to force toothpaste back into the tube. There's too much baggage between the two of them for them to ever work properly. Marinette is too used to treating Adrian as an object to be possessed and worshipped that one wonders if she'd ever be able to let him be without having to know everything about where he is, who he's with, etc. And Adrian is too used to her being resentful whenever Ladybug rejects him. Would he ever be able to handle being told no by her? Would Ladybug ever be able to say no to him in the future without feeling guilty for saying no previously? I don't know the answer, and I'm not a psychologist, but my gut says there's too much mess, too much baggage between them for a healthy relationship to ever truly blossom. And that's where I'm ending this video. Next time I'll be looking at the potential the show had and lost, and also a deeper look into the world of Twitter.